Cullen Theater in Houston, Texas. It's Rob Has a Podcast. And now, here's the guy who's the most qualified podcaster around to talk about Operation Italy. Rob Cesternino! Hello, everybody. Welcome. How's everybody doing tonight? Make some noise, Houston. Yes, okay. We are going to have a great time. Wow. Did we have an all-time episode of Survivor to watch tonight? Some people are saying this was the best of the new era. What do you say? Okay. I think for Gabe out there, I'm going to say this was on the Mount Rushmore of the new era episodes. We've got a great panel here tonight. We're going to take your questions. You can still send them in robhasawebsite.com/questionshouston. Although if you're watching the recording of this, don't send in any more questions, okay? We got them. All right. So I've got a bunch of people to get to here tonight, so let's bring in a veteran of these panels, somebody who filled in for me on the Know-It-Alls just a couple of weeks ago. 1 year ago, we were in his city for one of these. Please welcome our great friend, Owen Knight.
How you doing?
Hello. Owen, how are you?
I am great, Rob. Good to be back at a RHAP Live event. And Houston, thank you for the warm welcome.
Yeah. All right, Owen, what a fun episode this was.
It was great. It really was. I mean, really great strategy. The scramble was amazing. And it's always fun to see a big move get pulled off. We've had all these kind of landslide votes lately, so it was exciting.
Yeah, and unexpected because it looked like, I mean, I was saying earlier tonight, thank God we didn't have the live show last week. That would have been a tough one, but we got such a great episode, and this Operation Italy plan, which came together, and we get to talk about so many different parts of this to talk through. First off, just the sheer spectacle of it. What a great episode. That kudos to the production and the editors, the spycraft.
Yeah.
And
Ocean's 11 edit, the sweep through. Yeah, it was great.
They really went for it, and it was amazing.
Yeah, I had so much fun watching it, and just now that I've been on and seeing, like, okay, how are they going to edit this story? How are they going to, explain what went on the beach? And I thought they had a lot of fun with it. It's easy to clown on Survivor these days with the background music being a little too much and a little loud at times, but I loved the soundtrack that they did with the editing of the explanation of the plan. I thought it felt like a heist movie. It was great.
Yeah, and it was this big plan. There were so many things. Genevieve laid it out, all the different things that could have gone wrong or right with it, and the applause from you all here in the audience, that was like the biggest ovation I've heard at any of these live shows. I feel like we've done so many of these, and you seem like you were really entertained.
They loved it.
They loved it. They loved it. Okay, so let's start with great episode. Was this a great move for Andy?
That's hard to say. I mean, you immediately want to be like, oh my God, he did it, he pulled it off. But thinking moving forward, I'm not sold that it's the best move for him, because now you're going into next week 3-3, and those other 3 are pissed off at him. He just flipped on them, and they have all the stuff. They've got the block a vote, they've got the idol, and he has Sam and Genevieve, who have nothing. So for me, it's a great move, obviously, for Sam and Genevieve, and I'm sure they were giddy to play along and do their acting and be part of something finally. But for Andy, it harkens back a little bit, not to make it about my season, but it was a little reminiscent of the move on Cody by Jesse. And yeah. I fear that now Andy might be a big target, and we'll see if he gets to the end. Because I've been curious, and I love your opinion, like what they've been doing with Andy with his edit. Is he getting a winner's edit? Is he getting a 0-vote finalist edit? Is he getting a fallen angel edit? It's been kind of hard to pin down, so I'm not sure now if he's like the final boss that needs to be defeated.
Yeah, I don't know what's going to happen for Andy. I don't know if he is going to just be sort of like the person who does. I had kind of thought he was going to be maybe going to be a losing finalist, but now I'm starting to feel like that maybe he comes up just short, but I also think that maybe he could win. Is that
Tepid response to that.
yeah. Well, so many things from what you brought up, and I want to talk more about that Cody vote too. But just in terms of Andy and his positioning, it did feel like, based off of the episode, that it seems like he was going to be fifth. It seems like that the four women talked about how, hey, this four feels good. It felt like that Andy was going to be fifth. Is that reasonable to assume that he was headed towards fifth place?
I think it is. I think it is. We saw the conversation happening when the four women were left alone at the when they were on the reward, and it's not out of the realm of possibility that's how it would have shaken out. And I can't besmirch Andy for wanting to do something. You know, you want to put yourself in the driver's seat. You want to have that confidence in yourself that you can win a challenge when you need to, and fight your way to the end in that winning position. So I respect it. But yeah, it looked like he might have been cooked if he had just sat down and maybe gotten a place further, but is that what you want to do? You want to play to win the game.
So it was a brilliant move, and the way they put it together, Operation Italy, was so inspired. They put so much work into it, Andy, Genevieve, and Sam. It was incredible. When Rachel won immunity, should Andy have opted out? Should he have hit the eject button on Operation Italy once? Because if they get Rachel out, she has the block of vote. They can basically, and I don't know if Andy wants to go to the final three with Genevieve and Sam, but that the main target, the person that it would have been so great that they could have gotten was Rachel. Does it make as much sense when the target is Caroline?
I think it obviously doesn't make as much sense, but I think Caroline is a very reasonable target. I mean, we saw at the top of the episode Caroline mentioning something we all know, that her and Sue are the most visible connected duo left in the game. So that in and of itself is threatening. That's potentially 2 seats at the final tribal. But yeah, I think a big part of it went into how much time they had invested in the plan. I think if it hadn't been this slumber party concoction that they had cooked up, it might have been easier to abandon, but they had really put a lot of effort into the planning, and it's so rare in the game that you get such intimate, extended time with anyone to strategize like that. I could see their hesitance to abort the mission, but I think Caroline was a worthy target. I mean, I was sitting back there and people were like, she could win or she's going home tonight based on that.
I thought Caroline was the winner. If you asked me this morning who's winning Survivor, I would have said I'm 90% sure it's Caroline. So I was totally thrown off. I really felt like that we were headed towards Caroline winning the season. And then she's out now, and I didn't think this coming into this morning. It's starting to feel like that we're headed towards a Rachel win.
I've been on the Rachel train for a while,
you like
and
that?
I think a lot of people agree. Yeah, Rachel has a lot of the tools in the game right now. She has the connections.
A lot of hardware.
A lot of hardware, and yes, she's been identified as a threat, but she's got this clutch challenge ability as well, which I know gets undervalued sometimes, and it's like, oh, it's just challenges, whatever. But when you are a threat and you're able to clutch that out when you need to, and now she can save her advantages towards the end now, she's got a lot going for her.
Okay, so
I think it's hers to lose.
All right, back to Rachel. So Andy knows she has this block of vote. What is the next move knowing that Rachel has the block of vote?
Yeah, I don't know if he got that far in the plan.
Like, I get it. For Genevieve and for Sam, like, this makes all the sense in the world. What else were they going to do? Head towards getting voted out? So they didn't have another way to go. But I just feel like that Andy had come so far, it was too late for him to be able to pivot to something else. He was so invested in Operation Italy. But I just don't see a way around how he's on the right side of the numbers when Rachel has the block of vote next time.
I agree, and I think it would have been easier if Rachel had been the target, obviously, because then he can paint Sue and Caroline as the next big target and maybe try to pull Teenie in. So I'm not sure where Andy goes from here. It's reminding me of the South Park meme where it's like step 1, Operation Italy, step 2, question mark, step 3, profit. And I'm not sure if he's figured out what the question marks are going to be in this next phase. And I have all the confidence in the world that he can. Like, he really has this kind of like mad scientist energy going, and he's cooking up some creative stuff. And I forget, I think Sammy, my now wife, said that to me earlier today. Thank you. That Andy seems like he's having the most fun out there.
For sure. Yeah. I just wonder, so you put so much time into Operation Italy and everybody's loving it. I'm sure that, the producers are like, yes, this is great. Andy's like, I love this. And Genevieve and Sam, everybody's thrilled. What if Andy, Rachel said, maybe I should play the block a vote tonight. Mm-hmm. What if he ultimately just got Rachel to play the block a vote? Genevieve or Sam goes home on this vote.
I
could
think
that potentially be a better outcome for Andy?
I think it could have been. I think that could have ingratiated him to Rachel and bought him maybe a spot further. But I think he probably thought that would be a little boring or safe. And
Mm-hmm.
I think people are hesitant to use their hardware when they don't need to, and especially once Rachel had won immunity. Like, she's like, well, I get to save this till next round, and then I have my idol for the final 5. Like, why would I waste this? So I think that would have been a tough sell, personally.
Can you speak at all to like the position that a player could be in where it's like, hey, I feel like I'm headed towards the end. I need to, put points up on the board. Do you feel like that's for Andy? This was like looking at it like not just am I making this move, but ultimately for the jury, this is going to be my key resume point.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to that as someone who was like dying to pull something off and like wished I had, kicked the football, scored a basket, whatever. But I don't think Andy's perception of his game necessarily fit my perception of mine. In my confessionals, I was like, oh my God, like this is going so horribly. Whereas Andy has had this rightful
the opposite
confidence.
of that.
Yeah, he's been very confident, and he's almost given off this energy, like he's pulling off this big caper, and at the end he's going to reveal that he's had these machinations the whole time, and that it's like, you thought I was this crying fool on day 3, but now look at me, and I've risen from the ashes. And I think he had some merits to that, and I think this was kind of the cherry on top in that narrative for him, but now he's got to get through 3 more tribals, and it's a little daunting.
All right, so I want to compare this. You brought up the Cody vote, and to me, I feel like that's sort of like the gold standard for these big new era blindsides and how cinematic that all was. Can you just talk a little bit about like what that's like being part of like this big caper?
I can give it from like Sam and Genevieve's perspective, where it's exciting as hell. You're just like, oh my God, like I'm cooked. Like this is gonna, like I'm just trudging, as Genevieve said, to my death. Like you're just watching the snuffer slowly come down, and then all of a sudden, Andy's hand, Jesse's hand comes in. It's like, wait a second, what if we did something crazy? And it's so thrilling. Like I remember saying when we were pulling off the Cody move and setting the table for it, it was like Jesse was directing this Oscar-winning film, and I got to be like the tertiary actor in it. And I was just so grateful to have a role in the movie at all. I didn't care that I wasn't directing, and I didn't think to maybe try to utilize it to my advantage. So for Andy, I think he really did see it as his like masterpiece, right? And like you said, I think like they probably hyped it up in the whole Operation Italy of it all. It's all very exciting to have this named thing, but when you're on the beach, it's like intoxicating knowing that you're lying directly to someone's face. You feel like you have this perfect plan, and it's just all falling into place. And it worked out. I was not expecting it to. I thought Andy was laying it on a little thick at certain points when he was trying to push them to split the votes. I was like, dude, like pump the brakes a little bit. Like I was getting a little nervous that they would sniff it out.
So in that instance, and then also I guess on the vote where James went home, where Noelle was gonna pretend, she was telling James that she was gonna take your vote to send you home. In both of those cases, you had to act like you were the person who was gonna go home, and you knew you weren't. What is that like to have to do that?
It's fun, but it's also a little humiliating in a way, because you're like admitting to your position in the game. It's like, this is how I felt, this is how I think you perceive me, and I am just rolling over and letting that perception just overtake me. And yes, I have this shred of hope and this confidence that it will pan out, but there is still this like fear in you that it's like, what if it doesn't and I just look like I've just rolled over and died? And so there is a little bit of this like turmoil to where you're like, oh, should I be fighting harder? Should I try to do something different? But I think you need to like have a clear head and not let the anxiety overtake you and really just like settle in and say, okay, this is my best shot. I'll see what I can do tomorrow as long as I'm still here. So
how do you know where the line is of, am I doing too much? Am I not fighting hard enough?
That's a hard one to say, and I think that's what separates elite players from regular ones or average ones, to where you're able to like roll the dice and like play with fire to the point where you can get that sense from other people and pick up on the social cues and understand if you're pushing the envelope too far, which again is what made me so nervous about Andy, because I really thought people were sniffing out that he was up to something. Like when Genevieve called it shenanigans, like if there's any when Rachel said if there's any shenanigans, I was like, Andy has shenanigans written on his face right now. Like he does not have a poker face, and I was nervous that it would blow up, but they did it. They pulled it off.
Andy came back and he was really trying to get the word out of like, the thing I'm worried about is the idol. I'm really worried about the idol. And then everybody else was like, okay, well, maybe we should talk about splitting the votes. Teeny's like, I don't think that there's anything. How do you suss out that Andy is full of it?
Well, I was nervous at another point when he kept using the same verbiage exactly to talk to every single person. When he said, they just wined and dined me, and the biggest thing I'm worried about is the idol. And he needed a thesaurus. There you go, tongue twister. And I just was worried that if anyone compared notes, they'd be like, wait, he gave the exact same sales pitch to me in the same order, in the same intonation. I was a little worried, but you're kind of asking the wrong person, because no one was ever trying to pull one over on me, and I never had that positioning in the game. But I think, I don't know, it really seemed like even in that group conversation where he was the one that kept bringing it up and kept pushing, and at first it seemed pretty chill and just like, oh, here, what if we thought about it from this perspective? Let's build this world and see it this way. But then he kept hammering it. Yeah.
I always think about in this scenario that why don't people say like, okay, Andy, how about you vote for Genevieve, and then Teeny votes for Sam, and just see what his reaction is to that.
Right, and just test
like how
it
much
a little
pushback
bit.
Is there on that. But then I also feel like then you get into sort of like the Rob and Tyson, heroes versus villains, who is supposed to vote for who. So you could also like confuse it and make it more of a problem. But I just would love, like, I would like to always questioning like, well, what if I did this and you did that? And just to see if people like, no way, not doing that. That's a terrible idea. Why?
Yeah, ask about their motivation, set a little trap for them, and just see how they react. But I think it speaks to kind of the new era, just like moral set. I don't even know how to put it, but just how the tall poppy syndrome, like the biggest threat always going home, like people are sometimes afraid to rock the boat at all. And so I feel like no one wants to be the pushy one who's like interrogating Andy, like, why do you want to split the vote so bad? Because they don't want to be the annoying one, and if something goes wrong. But yeah, you would think, I think that's really smart. I completely agree with you that people should, push back a little bit more.
Yeah, just to see what they say. Especially when it's Andy and he's been so all over the place during the course of the season. Right.
They, for all they knew, he could have had another meltdown and just like imploded right then and there if the plan had been pushed. But that was a little mean. I'm sorry. But it's, I agree with you. I think they should have gone for it a little more.
All right. Well, Owen, let's bring up another one of our guests here tonight. Very excited that the dedication that this person has shown to be here with us after just giving birth only 2 weeks ago. Please welcome Karishma. Houston's own. How are you?
I'm so good.
Good to see you. You look great.
Do you want to take the seat? Okay.
Okay, Karishma, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing phenomenal. What a great episode we got to talk about.
Fantastic episode. I actually think it goes down in history as one of the best episodes of all time, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean,
sure.
it was it's certainly the best of the season. But tell us about you. How are you doing? How's everybody at home?
Well, as you mentioned, I do have a lot to celebrate. I, 2.5 weeks ago, just had a daughter. Thank you. Baby Kavina is doing great. My husband, Drew, is here with me, and this is my first time really out of the house.
Wow.
And I proudly just had my first glass of wine in 10 months.
Let's go.
Wow. You got wined and dined like
and
baby
dined.
Andy?
So, Rob, I can confidently say you were wining and dining me tonight.
Yes.
I got a bag of snacks, too.
Do you like that or you hate that like Andy? That's a too strong arm of an approach.
I will openly accept it. Where there's wining and dining, I will happily take it.
Yeah. Okay. Karishma, what was your reaction to everything that happened tonight?
So, first of all, fantastic episode all around. I think the editing was fantastic. I think the gameplay was so much fun to watch. But as you guys mentioned, and Owen was sitting next to me during the episode, so I'm one of those annoying people you do not want to sit next to during a movie because I lean over and I'm the one who's like whispering and giving my opinions. But Owen was such a champ. He was talking right back with me.
Well, no, you were a champ because you clocked the whole thing. You saw it coming. Your reads were amazing. And
the second Caroline gave that confessional at the beginning of the episode, I leaned over to Owen. I think it might have been the first thing I said to you. What'd I say? Death wish.
Yep, it's like she's going home. Yeah.
That's a death wish. But going back to what I was originally saying is I really think some of the decisions that a lot of the players made may not have been the best for their long game, predominantly Andy, our poor baby Andy.
Yeah.
I don't think he saw the big picture of what could happen by being a flip-flopper. And I feel like at the end of the episode, when they showed the jury saying he flipped again, I think it was a little bit letting us know that the jury's perception of a flip-flopper is not so great.
Okay, that's interesting because my read was that it was like, oh, Andy, he finally he did something.
Okay.
But I respect that view that maybe the jury is souring on him.
It could go either way. It really could, because there's two sides of the coin here. There's somebody taking hold of their game the way Andy saw what he was doing, taking control, making your own decisions. But you know, the way the jury said it, he flipped again, that didn't sit right with me. I think that they're just not going to respect it.
Right, because you have somebody like Sierra who's already on the jury, who she was the victim of one of Andy's flips. And so if there's a narrative already out there about him being a flipper, and then if he does it again, maybe that's not necessarily a move that the jury loves to see from Andy.
Absolutely. And I think for long game, Owen touched on it, you have to take a look. I mean, who am I to talk? But you have to think about not just this vote, but how my actions are going to affect the next vote and the vote after that. And all of the goodies are in the other side's bags. And those goodies could chop your head off. And I don't know if Andy, I mean, you know, he may have considered it, he may have a plan, but those goodies could chop his head off. You never know.
The problem is also that he doesn't know about Sue's idol. He doesn't know about
That's true.
Rachel's idol. That both of them have done a good job of keeping those things secret. The only thing he does know about is the block vote, which is still going to be a problem for him.
What's his plan for the block vote when it's 3 against 3 next week? I wonder. Right? Is anybody else wondering that? Because when it's 3 against 3, that's all you need is a block vote, and you're done.
Plan might be win immunity. I don't know what if Operation Italy got that far.
Yeah.
I don't think it did.
Yeah.
Just to backtrack a tiny bit, I think something we don't talk about a lot in the new era as much is the concept of jury management. Just because I feel like a lot of the super fans that are playing, like I feel like we view them as being very objective about like who played the best, who had the most control over the season. So that was something that you mentioned that hadn't crossed my mind at all. Like, can you speak to that a little bit more about like how you think those jurors are building the Andy narrative, or maybe how they might perceive a player like a Rachel? Because we we've been saying, I've been thinking it's Rachel's game to lose, and I think we said that up in the seats. Like, how do you think the jury is perceiving them at this point?
Well, my opinion on jury management is that has evolved so much over time, and it is such a crucial aspect of being a successful Survivor player in that you need to be able to understand what motivates people at the core in order to be a successful Survivor player, one, but in order to be successful at jury management. And what I mean by that is you need to know what these particular jurors value. Do they value challenge wins? Do they value great social gameplay? Do they value flip-flopping? I mean, maybe that's what Andy's thinking, is that these people value flip-flopping. Let me show them a little bit more of that. So that's the definition of jury management that evolution has turned it into now. And so you need to be able to think ahead. Hey, I'm about to put this person on the jury. This person really values this. This is what I'm going to highlight to that person.
Yeah, and that sounds so incredibly difficult to do because for one person, flip-flopping to another person, it's like genius strategy, right? And just from my experience on my season, Jesse was such a front runner, but his narrative was that he backstabbed many people throughout the season. And so this episode reminding me of Cody's boot and now seeing Andy kind of like blossoming into this Jesse position. But to Karishma's point, like he's not getting that same adoration from the jury bench, because I read it the same way. It read a little negative when they said he flipped again. You know?
Mm-hmm. You also have to think about who is going to be the leader over at Ponderosa, because being a 7-day Ponderosa veteran over here,
yes,
I know that the second you step foot there, you're sitting at that table and everybody is just comparing notes, giving their opinions, talking about what they think about everyone who's left's gameplay. And then as each new person who's voted out comes back and joins, the loudest voice at the table or the person with the most convincing sort of topics or convincing points, they're going to change a lot of minds at Ponderosa. So you got to think about who is going to be a champion for you or against you. You got to think about that too.
I want to talk a little bit about Sam's picks for the reward and Teeny's reaction to those picks. Now, okay, Karishma, your season I think had like the last like real family visit. They had one in Winners at War, but it was just like bring out everybody's family and their friends. They're all here. Your season, if I recall, that it was people were upset.
It was a lot. It was a lot.
Right? And I remember Nora was like freaking out that it didn't get picked, and it was like everybody was mad, right? So can you talk a little bit about what it's like back on the beach to not be selected for the family stuff?
Watching that scene was almost like being transported back to that beach for me. In that moment where we came back, and it was me, Nora, Dean, and Elaine, and we were sitting there fuming, and we were doing the same thing they showed with Teeny. Nora a little bit more than the rest of us, but and they showed you some of that. But we were all part of it. You're hangry, you're pissed off, you don't understand why certain decisions are being made, and there's so many disagreements. And the thing is, over the course of this journey, you're disagreeing so much, but when you're there and the four of you are sitting on that beach, especially for me, this was one of the few rare times where I felt like I was on the same page with some of the other players, with all the other players. And so we kind of bonded a little bit over that hatred and over that sort of feeling of being pissed off. And so I can completely relate to Teeny. And I thought it was just so fun to watch.
Yeah, Teeny was pissed.
Big mad.
Really? I didn't see it.
Yeah, but I didn't really get where Teeny was coming from. Like, it seemed to me it was
hunger.
Like, I hate I hate to say, I felt it was a little entitled about wanting to be the person to get picked.
Yeah.
That Teenie was going on and on and like, oh my God, Sam just made the dumbest move ever to not take me
Yeah.
to pitch me. If I was in Teenie's alliance, I'd be like, why? Were you gonna flip? And like, no, I wasn't gonna flip. Like, well, then why was it a dumb move for him to not take you?
Yeah.
He said, well, I was like an obvious person that he should have taken.
Yeah, it was funny. I'm surprised we didn't see more eye rolls from the rest of the ladies, but it still was fun to watch. And the sentiment is so true, right? The sentiment is real. Is when you're out there and you're hungry, you're missing home, you find out they get food, you find out they get letters, you find out that did they stay the night? I blanked out. They
Yeah,
say,
they
oh
did.
my
Yes.
God! Could this be like a better reward? I don't understand. So they get everything, and so of course you're going to be angry, and you're going to use any reason to be angry. And I don't know. Teenie was just fuming at Sam. She was probably just saying everything in her mind, letting it off her
But
chest.
what did Sam ever do to Teenie?
Not get voted out, I guess. But
Yeah.
I can give Teenie a little grace on that because I feel like Teenie has had a rough ride. You know, their number one ally in Saul got taken out. They had to kind of deal with Rome and lose Asia early when they didn't want to, even though they were kind of in on it. But it just feels like this was just another instance for them of things not going their way. And it's hard when you're out there. Because, like, yes, obviously there's a whole game going on.
Oh,
and there
and
are
Teenie
all
went
these
on
other
every
people.
single reward this season. This
That's
is
true,
the
and they've
first
had a
time
lot.
Teenie isn't going on
That's
the
fair.
reward.
But reward, like, no one cares. Like, you do care about rewards, but it's like, I just feel like strategically, Teenie is having such a frustrating time, and they've never gotten their way. They've never gotten their target out. Like, it's just boiling over at this point. So I can give them a little, like, I get it. I get it a little bit. And what I was going to say is, like, even though you're in this game where there's 17 other people, for you, it is your game. You are the main character of your life.
Well, sure.
So I can see why they're like, why didn't you pick me of all people?
And what a better example of that when Genevieve and Teenie are talking at the beginning of the episode.
That was a little
and that there's a point where Genevieve is talking about Rachel's the big threat, and Teenie is asking, well, are you saying that if I was in the end with Rachel, you wouldn't vote for me? And Genevieve says, well, it wouldn't be a slam dunk to vote for. Like, oh,
dare
you're threatening
you.
me. Whoa, what are you saying? That my game's not as good as Rachel?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was an ultimatum, not a threat.
And so everybody, ultimatum. So everybody really is the hero of their own narrative.
They are, but I'm with you. That was a little tough to watch. That felt like jumping 5 steps ahead in that conversation and felt a little overreactive.
Rachel's playing a really good game, Teenie.
Yeah. It's like, how dare you? So you're saying
what?
I'm playing a terrible
How could you
game?
say
Yeah.
that?
Yeah. I didn't love that.
Yeah.
That was not the best look, but I can empathize with Teenie's position in the game.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
For sure.
Karishma, is there anything else that you're seeing about Survivor 47 you want to tell us about?
Well, I'm loving the season. I did want to mention Genevieve's confessionals this season,
Yes.
and particularly this episode. I think first of all, she's very eloquent, and she's a great storyteller. But this episode in particular, look, I'm a little bit hormonal, so I did tear up. But when she was talking about not having any connections in the game, and I was telling Owen about this a little bit, but you know, it's been 5 years since I've played Survivor. I've obviously moved on. I've had 2 children, career, family. I don't think about Survivor very much, but when I'm here, when I was watching that, it took me back to this like visceral feeling of being back on that beach and feeling no connection. And I remember thinking when I came home, people would always ask me, what was the hardest part of Survivor? And my answer was always, it wasn't the elements, it wasn't the lack of food, it wasn't the cold, the rain, it was the lack of connection.
Yeah.
And if nothing else, you know, all you people, future Survivor players out there potentially, you know that Maslow's hierarchy of needs, the most important need is that connection. And I feel like this episode, Genevieve, it kind of dawned on her that this is what's missing. And the difference between Genevieve's situation and mine is hers was by choice, and mine was not. And I'm so glad that the light bulb came up for her, and I hope that she came home feeling like she was able to develop and come home with that connection, because it really is heartbreaking not having it.
Yeah. You've always done such a good job articulating how hard that part of the game is, from like when you went out and just talking about how that, okay, this was not something that was fun or that I would want to do again.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's such a big part of it.
Yeah, I remember when I got voted out and I got off that boat and I saw everyone standing at the edge of the deck, and I was walking towards everyone at Ponderosa, the first thought in my mind was not, what am I gonna eat or shower? It was, is anyone gonna hug me? Oh. And not to get Oz from y'all, but to understand just like how much in our human core we need hugs, we need connection, we need to feel friendship, we need to feel loved, we need to feel like we're capable of giving love. It was a huge lesson I learned when I played Survivor, and watching the episode, seeing Genevieve's face, it kind of just took me back, like she's feeling it. And it was, I hate to say it was great to watch, but I kind of felt connected to Genevieve in that moment.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
All right,
That's
well,
beautiful.
let's give you a hug. Thank you for coming out. The dedication after having the baby. I do need you to lose in fantasy football this weekend.
I'm playing Dominic this week, so he better go down. But you, rise. This guy was in last place.
I'm like Andy. Everybody counted me out. Here I come.
We're playing fantasy together,
All right, well,
but he's in
everybody
first place now. So.
give it up for Karishma.
Great job.
All right, let's bring up another guest, of course, from season 44, Lauren Harpe. Come on, Houston.
Hello. How are you?
First of all, also, this crowd is being amazing right now. Hey, watch it. Okay, Lauren, how are you?
I'm doing very, very well. Excited to be here. I'm glad y'all came. Have y'all ever been in Houston before?
First time.
First time, yeah. I'm doing well. I'm out close by in Mount Bellevue, so it was not that far away, but just excited that y'all are here and that we have events, there's not many things happening for Survivor in Houston, so it's cool to see when people come out here and we can come out and support, so.
What'd you think of this episode tonight?
Man, it was crazy. I was talking to Aisha back there, and it's so funny just to hear her perspective. But I am truly, after this, I'm Team Andy. I'm Team Andy. Just because he's narrating his own mastermind story, and it's so perfect. And you can't understand him, and I feel like, to me, it kind of gives Carolyn vibes a little bit from season 4.
I think that's a great comparison, because I think that Carolyn was somebody who, when people watched the show and she got to the end and she only got the one vote, I think a lot of the viewers were like, I don't understand. How come Carolyn didn't get more votes? We saw her all the time in the confessionals. And I think if Andy gets to the final 3, I could see him having a similar, people will be like, well, why didn't Andy win? We watched all of his plans.
Right, and like you guys mentioned before, when he was up there on the screen, he was like, okay, well, now is my time, right? He even talked about him being at the beginning and him being lower on the totem pole and then him rising up. And I think that if he can articulate that very well at the end in some type of way, I mean, I think he can pull it out. But I'm totally Team Andy. I love Rachel. Love Rachel. I heard a lot of cheers for Rachel, but I'm definitely Team Andy.
So you went to the sanctuary, right? And you got your letters, right?
I did. And you know, I'm gonna tell y'all, the sanctuary is hot as hell. Okay, it's hot, and there's like mosquitoes.
So many bugs there.
Yes, I got bit up all at the sanctuary, and that's the only place that I got bug bites.
I thought that's where good things happen.
Not at
well,
all.
I mean, we had tacos and stuff, and we got to talk. But I'm gonna kind of piggyback off of what y'all were talking about before. I got my letters, and it was a positive for me to be able to get the letters, but then it was also a negative because, like, after that moment, I kept going back to my letters and looking at them over and over. And I know at the very end of the game, what they didn't show on my season was right before, you know, that idol was above my head that I didn't see. I was like looking at my letters and I was crying, and the producers were like surrounding me with cameras, and it was just so emotional, you know. And like, I think at that moment, like it just broke me down, and I realized like I don't have that true connection. You know, like I have these people here who I'm building relationships with, but it's not real relationships, like at that point, you know? But it wasn't a relationship like what I had with these people who sent me these letters, you know? So I like really broke down emotionally and like lost focus. And so for me, being emotional in the game, I connected with Genevieve was like not a positive.
Yeah. That's so interesting because you hear the players tonight said like, oh, I got the letters and that fueled me and it reminded me I was playing for the people back home, and it's generally a positive, but that's so interesting that it could also be something that takes you out of the game.
Right. And now, like, I would have totally wished if my kids would have came out there, my mom, you know, that would be so cool to see them. But it just, like, that's not the way that I was able to play the game fully, you know, to my best ability.
That's interesting that you said that, because Sammy on my season also kept his letter and kept going back to it. And it's very different from the loved one's visit where you see them for a little bit and then they leave and then that's it. And it's like a hard cutoff. I think the long goodbye and like having that temptation in your bag to look back at it when you need comfort, but also like it can be a crutch for sure. So I'd never heard anyone else talk about that. That's a really good point.
Yeah. I was so emotional.
I've also heard Rick Devens has said that the letter is better than the loved one's visit in that because you get to keep the letter. You have the letter with you the whole time. The family member comes and leaves, but the letter is something that you hold on to.
Right, and actually the letter was very it was something really important for me because I didn't have. My dad was very strict and not very emotional, didn't show his feelings. So that was a moment for him to be able to show me his love and in words that I had never really seen before, you know. So for me to continue to see that over and over, and I never got that, you know, the verbal affirmation, you know, it was tough for me. I was going through all kind of stuff mentally, you know, in that moment that I wasn't prepared for.
So we see that Caroline and Sue have this really close relationship, and you and Jamie had that, you know, tight bond throughout the game. What do you think about Sue wanting to offering to play her idol for Caroline? Caroline saying no, don't do it.
I felt so bad in that moment because it was at 6, I guess, I won immunity. It wasn't the family visit, though, but I won immunity at 6. And I was just so on cloud 9. I'm like, yeah, I won again. I'm not going home. Like, and nowhere in my mind did I think that they were going to vote for Jamie. You know, so I'm not even trying to devise a plan or anything, you know, because I'm like, they're not going to vote for me. We're going to vote for, like, Carson or Carolyn or something, you know, and that's going to work. But I felt so bad because she did have something that she could have done, but it didn't, in my mind, me watching it, I didn't think it was going to go Carolyn's way or Caroline.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, and how does Sue know to play the idol or not there?
That's a tough one, and I'm worried now, just thinking ahead, like, is that gonna mess with Sue? Like, the survivor's guilt, like, worrying and lamenting, like, oh, I could have saved her, like, that's, like, like, the double whammy of it is that not only does she lose Caroline, but now, is that gonna take her head out of the game and, like, make her feel bad? Or is it gonna be fuel for her revenge arc? And knowing Sue, like...
Yeah. I mean, remember when Kyle wrote Sue's name down? Like, what is she going to do to Andy when, like, you took out Caroline?
Yeah.
Her daughter in the game.
And also, though, I'm just still thinking about Sue. I'm like, man, that could have been a move for her. You know? Like, it could have been something she could have spoke to. But I don't really know too many moves or too many things that she can speak to at this point.
When the whole place is buzzing about Genevieve and her idol, Genevieve's got the idol. Genevieve doesn't play the idol. Is that a tip-off?
I feel like it could have been, like that something fishy was going on and something strange was happening. And yeah, I think it brings up the question of, like, does Sue want to use her idol defensively or offensively, right? Like, is she going to use it as a tool to extend her game and make it further, or is she going to use it as a weapon to potentially take someone else out? And like Lauren said, I think it was a missed opportunity in that one that she needs, because if we're talking about, like, what has she done in this game, like, it's not looking great. And then, yeah, you wonder.
I mean, she looks great with the contour, but I mean.
It's getting a little smudged.
That everybody was talking about that, oh, it's contouring. But then we saw her, like underneath going into, like, all these, like, crevices.
I don't know. Like, before you go to tribal, y'all know, like, you have time. She can, like, go wash her face or, you know, like.
Is she contouring her nose? I don't.
Did she say anything about it? Like, did she mention that she was contouring, or?
She said on Instagram that it was contour, but I don't know if I buy that necessarily.
I don't know. I don't know what's going on. Something else that was interesting in the episode was that for Genevieve and for Sam, were they trying to throw the immunity challenge? Because does Operation Italy work if one of them ends up being immune?
That didn't even cross my mind. I didn't catch it, did you? Yeah.
No.
And I have to go back and watch. Is anybody in the audience, do you think that Genevieve and Sam were trying to throw immunity? Yeah? Yeah.
It doesn't work.
That's a good question to ask them one of these days.
Mark that down for the future exit interview.
Yeah.
Were they trying to throw immunity? Genevieve and Sam?
Yeah.
Why, though?
Because if one of them ends up being immune, then they don't have to split the votes. And it only works, Andy's plan only works if they split the votes.
Yeah.
That's why you're the know-it-all.
So were there any other things from Survivor 47 that you saw that reminded you of your season?
Just like what y'all were kind of talking about earlier about jury management, it just made me think about Jam Jam and how, or Yam Yam. Jam Jam?
Yeah, Jam Jam.
Sorry, Jam Jam. It just made me think about him and how he managed us very well. Like, he took a back seat, but then he still kept that relationship with each and every one of us very personal. And even I can remember when I left, like, he voted me out, and I did not see that coming from him. But he, like, came up and gave me a hug and was like, I'm so sorry, you know, like, whatever. And I was like, I know Jam Jam would not do that to me. And then even back, you know, at Ponderosa, I was like, you know, Jam Jam. And I was thinking about, too, like, I wish we still had, like, Ponderosa edits or some type of edits so y'all can see it.
Don't we all?
Because when you talk about, like, we're sitting out at that table or wherever you are until late at night, like, strategizing or thinking about how things are working and who we need to vote out. Like, you can devise your own plan at Ponderosa and not even be in the game. Like, and you can navigate it and make whoever you want to make look great. Like, there's so much that happens there that is not seen.
Yeah, so the jury after tribal is, like, trying to figure out what happened? Is that, like, what goes on?
Right. And even, like when I left, like, they were like, oh, so what's really going on with Carolyn? You know? And I'm like, she didn't know anything that was going on, you know, like, and I'm just saying like all this stuff, and you can make the story go however you want, you know, like, and especially with me leaving at the very end and me being like fifth and then Carson coming right after, like we could play that however we want, no matter how long. Like there's some people who were there a long time, yes, but the last people coming in, you can kind of tell whatever story you want and kind of have that last say so.
You've got the most new information.
Yeah.
Right.
So I know you said your team Andy. What do you think the jury's perception of Andy is? To Karishma's point earlier of them like noting that he flipped again, like do you think they're not picking up what he's putting down?
Yeah, I think that I don't think Sierra's down with it, just knowing just her. But I just think it's all gonna depend on, like at the very end, he was talking to Rachel and he was like, I'll tell you about it later. I just think it's about how he's gonna go back and sell that, and then again, going back to how is he gonna sell it at Final Tribal if he makes it there, you know? But it was a good point that she made, that you got to know what those people are motivated by, and you got to know like what they see as a great player, you know, and that's going to be really important.
Is there anybody that you're seeing that is doing those things that you saw Jam Jam do in terms of managing you as a juror?
I mean, Andy.
Okay.
I mean, just like he's going back, even after everything, he's like, I'll talk to you about it. And even before, when something happened, I don't remember like what other vote he was in on, like he would go back and like clean everything up.
Okay.
He would always go clean everything up. So I mean, he's not doing what Jam Jam was doing, but he's trying. And I think, I don't think Rachel is in a place to be able to do that. You know, I don't think she's been like leading the charge on anything.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's actually a decent point, because like you think Andy has this like sincere earnestness about him, and I think we saw it when he reconnected with Rachel a couple weeks ago, and then again with Genevieve in tonight's episode. I think there is something there, like I don't know how people view him necessarily, but it's almost like this like lovable younger sibling kind of energy that I wonder if he's giving
like,
that off.
oh yeah, like Owen, yeah, I'm really excited to work with you. I really want to do this with you.
It's a shame it hasn't
yeah,
lined up
Lauren,
so
I've been
far.
really hoping to get the chance to talk to you. Like, oh, okay, great. Let's do something. But he's doing it to a lot of people.
Right. But even like when I saw Genevieve come to him this episode and she was like apologizing, I'm sorry, it didn't seem genuine to me.
Yeah.
And I mean, anybody else, like even with Sam, he was like, oh, Andy, I brought you out here because I kept my word. Like, he didn't seem genuine either, you know? They tried to, but Andy is just something about him. It's just like, you just don't know, you know?
We'll see. All right, Lauren, thank you so much for
Thank you,
coming on with
guys.
us.
Great job.
Give it up for Lauren. Thank you. See you later. Okay, all right. Next up, we've got from Owen's own season, Survivor 43, Dwight Moore is here. How you going?
What's up, everyone?
Dwight, how are you?
Doing great. I love that episode so much. I thought that was an amazing strategic gambit that they had to take, and I'm so glad it worked out for them.
It worked out. Dwight taking a little break from playing Blood on the Clock Tower with everybody.
Yeah, this is a fun little break. It's still strategic. Love that game, but this is so much fun to watch people, take a big risk, take a big swing when they have no other option in this game right now. And,
Yeah. Okay, give us your reaction to the big move tonight.
I think you touched on it a bit earlier. It was, for Sam and Genevieve, they had no option whatsoever. Like, you have to take this gambit. But for Andy, now he's kind of has the ire of the people he just betrayed, right? This Underdogs Alliance is going to look at him as he just made himself stand out, when they're all kind of looking for that way to stand out from each other if they all want to go to the end together. So Andy could very well be a target of this group now that has all these advantages. But at the same time, I'm glad he did that and is swinging for the fences, playing for the win instead of just going for I'll stick with the Underdog Alliance and then get picked off at 5 or 4, because he's not as connected with that group as the others are connected with each other. So
yeah.
Even though he might, go home very soon because of that, I think that is his best play to try and go for the win, and that's what you need to do in this game.
Can I give a new name for the Andy, Sam, Genevieve Alliance? They're called the Underdogs. Take it back. Reclaim it.
Reclaim it from the group of 5 with all the advantages.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Dwight, we have been taking questions from these wonderful people all night, and since you're here with us, we thought maybe you could help us answer some of our audience questions.
Sounds good.
Okay? All right. First question. Cooper wants to know, the block of vote, how do they get around it next round?
I don't think they can. Rachel, it expires at 6. Rachel's going to have to play it here at 6. And now there's a 3-3 split, and one side has a block of vote, which if they utilize correctly, if I remind me, the Southern Dark expire at 6 or 7. I forgot.
They gave them all away. They don't even have them.
You're so right. You're so
They
right.
traded it for Rice.
Okay, well, with that, they're going to probably, I'll touch on this later with the whole idol situation, but there's really no way to stop those 3 from controlling the game in this round with Rachel's block of vote they're going to play, unless Sue and Jesus Christ.
Teeny,
thank you. Unless they also flip on Rachel, but I don't see a world in which they do that. So it's kind of tough for the people without the advantages to try and make a way out of this one.
Or do Sam and Genevieve throw Andy under the bus now?
I think that's also very, very their best play, unfortunately, for Andy.
It'd be very sad
One
for
person
Andy.
said
Yeah. Sorry about that.
Okay. Sean wanted to know, whose post-reward freakout was better, Teeny or Liz?
Sorry, Teeny.
You take this one.
Liz was better, right?
Liz was iconic. Yeah, next question. That's all. Enough
Yeah.
said.
Like, Liz will never forget. I mean, Liz's freakout was like the highlight of the season.
So good.
Over Applebee's, of all things.
Yeah. Shout out Applebee's, right, Karishma? Okay. All right. Ashley wants to know, do you think if Genevieve played with emotions and emotional connections, she would be in a similar position as Rachel?
I think there would be a point to where some of the jurors might be more hurt, but at the same time, some of the jurors still connected with her. I think if she played with more emotions, she might have, hesitate on the soul vote, which some people would say would actually be more beneficial for her game, because some people pointed to the soul vote as being when she kind of made herself such a big target, kind of started her downfall. So if she played with emotions, she might have made different moves, which might have been better for her positioning, because her strategic acumen is off the charts, right? But maybe that social connection could have stopped her from making that move, I think, a bit early. But at the same time, I'm not sure how her game would change too differently besides that soul vote she played with emotions.
Yeah, Rachel, I think, has been much better at managing her threat level than Genevieve has. I don't think it necessarily has to do with that Rachel has been more like emotionally vulnerable and put herself out there and like had better bonds with people. I think that she's just had, she's been better at being under the radar and making subtle moves than Genevieve has. I do think it was interesting, the shift that the reward ended up having, where Genevieve said that, like, oh, I feel like I had a wall up, and it was keeping the bad stuff in, and I've taken the wall down. And Teeny said the reward choice really caused Teeny to get locked in and, like, put the wall up. The reward challenge Freaky Friday them. They
It's the spirit
switched.
swap, yeah. Well, and not to backtrack a bit, but it's hard watching and understanding the social connections too, because we get told so much about what these social connections are versus just seeing them develop organically. Because for all we know, Genevieve has like a little bit, like it seems like her and Sam have actually built quite a rapport from both being on the bottom, and it's like part of that is situational, but also like the shared experience and maybe her opening up with him in this vulnerable state. So it's like that's one of the tough editing parts, even with these 90 minutes, is just like strategy all the time and moves. We don't necessarily get to see the organic growth of some of those like bonds that we're trying to analyze. It's tough.
Okay, question from Keith. Is there anything Caroline could have done to escape the vote out tonight?
Get Sue to play the idol.
Yeah, that's kind of it.
Yeah, but
if you have an ally willing to just play that idol on you, like, just why say no? Be like, yeah, sure, save us both. We'll get a bit further. So, I mean, I guess Caroline, her and Sue are so tight. She wants to not waste Sue's idol per se, but also, it's Final 7. You can be a bit selfish and say, you want to play it on me, play it on me. Like, I'm not going to stop
Yeah,
you.
what are they saving it for?
Exactly. Also, furthermore, another thing with the whole idol shenanigans, I'm not sure, I was thinking about it some more about Genevieve's idol plan, and they said that Genevieve found the merge idol. For Rachel specifically, Rachel knows that she has the merge idol that's in play, and to my knowledge, someone correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think there's been a new era season where there's been a second merge idol introduced while the first one's still in play.
Yeah.
There's always only one idol from a source at a given time. So for Rachel, that could have been a tip-off of like, they're saying they found the merge idol, I have it, so this can't be real.
See, I don't know how much you could really let that be a factor, because Rachel doesn't know about Sue's idol. So,
But Sue's idol came from her tribe. I'm saying the source of the idol, Genevieve saying the source was post-merge, right? It's the merge idol. Rachel is holding it. There's never been a second instance of the same source and idol at the same time.
But I feel like that there's been two idols in the post-merge game.
Because they start on the tribes and then they bring them into the merge and then they introduce the new one.
I think that if I'm Rachel, maybe that I'm sort of like saying that's a little bit suspicious, but I don't know if I necessarily would say that that's like a guarantee.
And because I don't know if they know or if I can't even remember, like the original Lavo idol, that was Rome,
Yeah, Rome.
that had it. And then, but he played it.
Found it, and no one ever found it again. Yeah.
Yeah.
Only one who plays. Yeah.
Or
Yeah,
something.
it's a good question. For Caroline, I just don't know if she like could have seen this coming in any way, shape, or form. I think it just comes down to like, could you trust Andy?
Yeah.
And they all did.
They did. They like the plan was masterful in every single facet of what they did. So I think it was very hard to detect, and they pulled it off amazingly.
Here's another question: who's the sneaky threat to win?
I thought it was Caroline for a while.
Same.
I really thought it was. I thought it was this season was gonna be that Rachel was the big threat, Caroline was gonna get her out, Caroline was gonna be the winner.
I mean, earlier you were saying, like, could Andy screw around and win the whole thing? Like, is that now? And it wouldn't be sneaky at this point since he's just pulled off this huge caper, but, like...
I don't think there really is a sneaky threat at this point because you have Rachel, they want to get out, but obviously that didn't happen in subsequent community. Sam and Genevieve are painted as these big threats, and Andy just made this massive move. So that's 4 people out of 6. I love Sue and Teeny, but I don't think there's a way they can sneakily win at this point. Unless Sue does something major with the idol, but I think it's very tough for them to be...
Are Teeny and Sue both in the final 3?
No.
No. Okay.
I mean,
I think they are.
I think they very well could be. I think
yeah.
they would be the top 2 like suitor, like people would want them there. But then there was this whole concept of goat hunting that was brought up a couple episodes ago, where that is something like on their mind. It's like these seats could be taken up by these people. Why would we want to lose our seat potentially to someone like Sue? But if you're there and you think you can get to the end with those 2 people you feel very confident you can beat, yeah, like why not?
Yeah. Okay. Dwight, what else have you been seeing here in this season?
I mean, you touched on almost everything I want to talk about. This whole season's been amazing so far. I think this endgame's gonna be interesting, especially with this whole block vote, what they do with that, how the idols end up being played if Sue does anything with it besides just, saving herself at 5. She wants to make an offensive move with said idol, because that's a way to kind of get her out of this, quote unquote goat status at the moment. But outside of that, I think this endgame is really centered around Rachel at this point, and I want to see what she's able to do with the leg up that she has on all the other players right now.
Okay. Give it up for Dwight Moore, everybody. All right, see you later, Dwight. We've got another great guest here with us, Houston's own. Give it up for the Godfather, Carl.
Let's go.
How you doing, Carl?
What's up, man? Good to see you. Here you go.
Bing! Carl, how are you?
I'm good, man. Good. Just living life,
Yeah. What'd you make of all this tonight?
It's cool. I mean, I watch, every season, but I really don't. After I played, I really don't get deep into studying every single thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just it's too much. And of course, when I played, it was old school Survivor. So now it's like all these different twists and turns to where I'm like, oh my God, I can't keep up with all the stuff they're doing.
Well, Carl, you were at one of the most like iconic tribal councils of all time, though, when y'all took out John. Like, did this episode bring you back a little bit?
It absolutely did, because it took a lot of planning to make a move such as that. You know what I mean? Like, that's not something you just can spend 5 minutes and say, let's do this, let's do that. Like, everything has to fall in place in order for that to work.
So, who from this season has been fun for you to watch?
I actually like Andy. I really do. Because from episode 1, you know, and I can relate to him, because in episode 1, like, I thought I was about to die after that first challenge, like, literally. So to see him go through that and do exactly what he's doing now to position himself where he is now, it's like the dude is putting in work.
Yeah.
Very David-y of him.
He's had a remarkable turnaround from where he was in the beginning of the game, and now here he is. Do you think that he can win?
Absolutely. But, of course, it's going to take a lot more work now, because he has to get that blocker vote out of the game in order for him to survive.
What do you think of this duo of Genevieve and Sam, who sort of like got this painted on them? You're the threats, you two have to go, and they really only have each other to work with in the game.
Well, when you're not in the majority, you're always looked at as a threat. So it's like, it's no way around that. I mean, in reality, everybody is a threat in the game. I mean, we've all played, you know?
Yeah.
So it's just according to how every different person thinks. But I don't see both of them being the biggest threats. I mean, but obviously the cast do. In my opinion, I see Genevieve being the best player on this season so far, in my opinion. Because,
Good take.
like, she's just on it. Like, yeah.
Other than winning out in the challenges, do you see a path for Genevieve?
Well, it's going to be tough, but she would have to win immunity
Yeah.
at some point. I mean, probably within the next 2 episodes for certain. Because
No
right
better
now-
time than right now.
Right now.
And the problem is that Rachel, who's been, playing this great game too, now Rachel's heating up. Rachel's winning 2 immunities in a row.
Yeah, and didn't Nick went on a run at the end of your season, right?
That was
It
the
took
only
a long
way
time.
Nick could win, because, I mean, not to go back to mines, but when I got voted off, when Gabby and Christian flipped,
Yeah.
well, Gabby and Christian came out right behind me, as well as Davey. So the Davids were gone after that. You know what I mean? So Nick had to win every single challenge from that point on to make it to the end.
So in the new era, they go to the sanctuary where good things happen, Carl. They had this Italian spread of Jeff really was hyping this up.
Jeff sells everything.
Caesar salad.
Yeah. I wrote this down. He said, you're going for Italian food. We're going to have pizza. And he named the pizza like pepperoni, margarita. He like really
Enunciated, yeah.
And then he's like, we've got pasta. We've got bolognese, mushroom pasta. What the hell is that?
Second favorite sauce.
And then he says, and then we've got crisp, fresh Caesar salad.
Yum.
Okay.
Cool.
All right. That's always the highlight of any Survivor reward,
Any
the
Italian
salad.
table, yeah.
Right? Every Survivor is like, boy, is there salad today? Can we get a salad? Can I get a salad with that? And then also, and for dessert, he says, tiramisu.
Tiramisu. Unreal. And then Sam goes, fixins? And Jeff's like, sure.
Why not?
Yeah. Why not?
Yeah.
Sure.
What are the fixins? Yeah.
Oh yeah, Jeff sells the food. I mean, and when you're out there, you're just like, you light up, because it's like you're starving, you know what I mean? And then you get the food and it's like, oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Way to go, Jeff. Maybe the Applebee's was good, but the pizzas and all of that, yeah.
The beer was nice and cold, though.
Oh,
as
the
you
beer
were
was
an
cold.
expert on. Mhm.
Yeah. Owen, for the players that get to do, did they have a sleepover reward?
We did,
in
yeah.
43?
Our final 8, yeah.
Yeah. And then they're gone for so long.
Yeah, it's a weird amount of time, and like Lauren was saying, the accommodations are not great. Like, I slept horribly. It's really disorienting in a weird way, because you're on the hard floor now, and you smell all the leftover food sitting there, and it's like teasing you to stay awake, but you know you should go to sleep, and you just feel like you're out of the game, but you're still it's very discombobulating in a way. So like they sell it as this huge advantage, reward, you're gonna be so well rested, but the 2 times I went, I came back and it led to some of the worst, just like fog and weirdness afterward, because the second time I went, we had coffee, and so that really was not helpful to trying to play Survivor, I'll tell you that.
Yeah. Carl, can I ask you about a rumor that I hear that you are about to have your big break coming up soon on television?
Well, yeah. I mean, if you want to call it a big break, but yes, I'm going to be doing a cameo on season 3 of The White Lotus.
Let's go!
Wow!
Can you give us any tease? Are you lock and key right now?
No, I'm not going to be blocking, giving any information.
Okay.
You
I
just
respect
must
that.
watch. Please watch The White Lotus. Mike White is a great producer.
No doubt. No, can I ask you, what was it like to have to act in a show?
You know, the funny thing is the acting was real cool, man. Like the people that I was with, I was nervous as all get out, Rob.
Yeah.
But like I'm sitting in the green room and I'm starstruck because of some of the people I'm there with, you know? And they're like, "What are you so nervous for?" And I'm like, "Man, I don't know how to act." And one of the guys go, "Hell, neither do I, but I just..." He goes, "I can't do your job. You can do my job." And I'm like, "Well, if you say so." I mean, but yeah, no, it was fun.
You know, we saw some of the players have to act tonight. Like, is being on Survivor and going through like some of these votes where you have to deceive people, is that like a similar exercise to acting for a show that's not reality?
No, I wouldn't say. I would say. Survivor was.
I was hoping that this would be my, I'd get into acting then.
Survivor was much harder, like literally much harder. And of course you're starving and you're hot and the sanctuary is not all what it's kicked up to be, you know. Acting is fun, like, yeah, it was real cool.
Do you have any other thoughts about the new era?
No, Rob, I'm kind of like stuck in my own ways, man. Like, I don't know. I wanted to go back to the old school. Like, I mean, I appreciate the new era.
Yeah.
But, like, I mean, all these twisted, let's just go on journeys. Like, I mean, they don't burn enough gas in these boats going on all these journeys. Like, it's all journeys. Like, I mean, come on, man. Hide the idol, look for the idol, and everybody
Play the
battle it
game.
out.
The one they
you know?
did last week was pretty good, though.
Well, yeah.
That was fun.
They came up with a good one there. But there's a lot of journeys.
Carl had a good journey with the in the coconuts on the beach. You had to wade
Oh,
through.
yeah.
You want to know a funny story about that?
Please.
I was getting beat down looking for this coconut. I mean, for 20 minutes, I'm in this water, like, there's coconuts everywhere. Finally, I guess, production was like, take a break. Like, what? You're about to kill yourself out there. And I'm like, whatever. So I just literally laid down.
Yeah.
And then finally started back, and yeah, sure, lo and behold, I found the.
Right, they
Right,
were looking
when you
out.
did
You know what I
That
mean?
water
But-
looked rough.
Oh
yeah.
man, it's crazy, man. That water was crazy. Like, yeah, that was the hardest thing for me on that season, was spending that one night alone.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
You were just on, like they just dropped you off on some beach by yourself?
On a totally different beach all by myself.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, like,
And
that was horrible.
Did you have to make a fire
I
and
had
everything?
to make my own fire and everything. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Should they do more journeys like that? Should they send people
Well, that
off?
wasn't a journey like they do journeys now.
Yeah.
Like,
It was harder.
Yeah. All right, Carl, anything else that you're seeing on Survivor 47?
No, man, I like the show. I mean, a great cast.
Yeah. 10 seasons since season
10
37.
seasons since I was last on. So, yeah, I mean, keep it up. Keep going,
All right. Carl, thanks for coming out.
Good to see you.
Yeah. Take care, man. All right. And then we've got one more surprise for you here we've got a loved one of a survivor and his wonderful girlfriend. It's America and Corey. Here, you two sit over here. What's up, man? How are you? Hey, America. How are you guys doing?
Good. Yeah.
How fun, America, Corey?
Okay, do it.
Okay,
do it,
now,
do it.
Survivor fans, you all know who this is, right? What brings you to Houston?
You.
Oh.
What do you mean?
That's your employer, America. Like, there's no.
No, we almost didn't make it, and I was like, Corey,
Why?
I'm gonna
What
get
happened?
fired. We have to, because I procrastinated buying tickets,
Yes?
and they were expensive, and I was like, you know what? Maybe we should save a little money. But we figured it out. We found a way.
Somehow.
We're here.
Okay. What did you guys think of the episode tonight?
It was awesome. I'm still trying to figure it out because I'm like, how did it work? I was like whispering to Corey the entire time, like, Andy's like acting is so fake. You wouldn't think that someone would be on to him. Like he's coming back being like, come on guys. Like,
What
split
were
the
his
vote. So
tells?
adamant.
What were you seeing?
I don't just like very nervous, very adamant about this being the plan and having to stick to it. And I don't know if I've seen him like take that much initiative ever before. So you think that they would be like, wait a minute, he left and came back like a new guy. This is kind of suspicious.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm gonna choose to give Andy a lot of credit because they were clearly trying to like run with the narrative of there's so many different things that can go wrong and so many ways for this plan to fail. So like they're gonna show us every one of Andy's worst moments to make us think that it's not going to play out the way it did. So like Andy pulled it off. I think you had a good idea, Rob, of like testing Andy, like, hey Andy, what if you actually voted for Sam? Why didn't they just force Andy to vote for Sam? Like, that was the play that no matter what, you're golden 100%. But I guess that, like, signals to Andy that they're suspicious? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, it's a good question for the exit interviews to ask Caroline, which we'll have up on the podcast, so we'll get into that. Who do you think is going to win?
Okay, so Rachel is the answer. I think the vote block gets her through 6, the idol gets her through 5, figure out a way through 4. I don't know if I believe it, I like the Teeny winner idea. For me, Teeny was not destined for Survivor. They were destined to be in a majority alliance on Big Brother. Oh my God, Sam and Genevieve on the bottom talking to each other, how dare they?
I whispered to Corey, I'm like, that's Izzy. I'm like, that's literally Izzy.
Teeny didn't like it that they even had each other to commiserate with.
No, not at all. And it's like classic Big Brother, like us 5 in the 7, the minority, the underdogs.
Yeah.
It was, and what I appreciate so much about Teeny, like you could never make me hate Teeny, is it takes so much guts to go in confessional and give the producers the opportunity to make a fool of you. Like, it's so easy to go in there and like hedge and be like, oh, I mean, like obviously they could be pulling the wool over my eyes. It takes a different kind of animal to go in and be like, I'm 100% right. I know I'm comfortable. I'm gonna win the game and Sam's gonna go home. Like, we can't get good TV without people like Teeny, so biggest fan.
America, what do you think of the sanctuary?
Well, now that I hear that there's bugs there, it looks so serene and peaceful on TV. I'm like, oh my God, that's the spot. But I don't like it anymore. I don't know. Maybe if they have Applebee's or Rafferty's, that's our place.
So on our season,
Rafferty's?
It's like, I don't know if it's just a Tennessee thing, but we go to Rafferty's all the time in Nashville.
Yeah.
Well, so I think we had one sanctuary-esque moment on our season, and it was so boring, it was fully edited out of the TV product. Oh, no. There was this 4-person dinner. It was Suri, America, Felicia, Mimi, And Sanctuary is a place where boring things happen, I guess. Like, there was no
We
content
did
whatsoever.
the final 3 like brunch. What, week 3, week 4? It was like day 20. Essentially, that's what it was.
Not good.
Okay, so I know from your neck of the woods, Sam is your local survivor. Where do you think Sam is after all this?
I mean, Stephen Fishback had a good tweet about it today. Like, why are we discounting Sam? Has the big edit, I think most confessionals at this point of the season, obviously most confessionals without really having the most influence, and especially in the back half of the game. I think the problem is, other than his physique, why is he not a GOAT at the final 3? Like, at this point, is Genevieve a bigger threat? I would think so. Andy seems to be crossing that line. Like, it's just bizarre to think because Sam is such a confident person, such a seemingly really strong player, but I do think he's getting to that 0 vote finalist point, and it's just weird because, like, think of the wolf in wolf's clothing. It doesn't add up.
That's a good point. Like, Owen, like, nobody's talking about this, but we saw Sam sort of like beast out in a challenge and win reward here. And he said like he can win rewards, he can't win immunities.
Right.
But like, would that be crazy if he like won the last 3 immunity challenges?
It wouldn't be crazy for it to happen. I think it would be crazy for that to happen and then for him to still win based off that. Like, I agree with Corey. Like,
But why wouldn't he? Isn't he the big threat? And then he wins 3 challenges?
Well, I've been confused. Does Sam say he's a big threat because they just view him as a big threat in the challenges because he is like the tallest human left there? Or do they perceive him as a threat because of what he's done? Because like he hasn't really done, like he lost his #1 ally in Sierra at early merge and then he's just been kind of powerless since. So yeah, I don't know, but it's an interesting thought exercise just because like I'm always kind of on the hunt for the 0 vote finalist and like who's getting
Who do you
this
think it
storyline.
is?
Well, I thought I was debating between Teeny and Andy for the longest time because Andy's edit really has confused me just because there's so many layers to it and like flavors to it. Is like, could he win? Like, is this a winner's kind of moment? So I think Teeny's a leader in the clubhouse now, but I think Sam could have a case on more of like the Xander type of editing versus like me or Jake. So I'm curious to see, but yeah, he could go on a run because he has won a couple challenges, just not the necklace ones.
Yeah. And Steven also was posting about his theory about the anti-hot person bias on Survivor is real. You heard Teeny really going off about Sam. Doesn't even like the look of him.
Well, I've seen him in person. I love the look of him. He's, oh my God, taller in person than on the show. The one thing that Owen brought up I think is interesting is like Andy's edit. And I think the more that I watch Andy, the more I worry for Andy's jury chances because his name doesn't come up. And that is either the sign of a masterful player or why are we going to ever vote out Andy? When you dig yourself in such a massive hole, what was the chat, day 3? You literally have to play like balls to the wall the rest of the season in order to get yourself to a position to maybe get a jury vote. And the fact that his name is not coming up when he's so clearly like in confessional at least saying he's so involved and saying he's running the show, I think it does not bode well for how the other players perceive him.
America, who's your favorite?
Oh my God, this is hard because we've actually like met most of them, right? But so I really like Teeny. I like them. Yeah, they're so bold.
Big Brother coded 100%.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a really good point. I really like that. Owen, is there anything that we didn't cover tonight?
Well, didn't you have some breaking news from social media to ask them about?
Oh, yeah, okay. I was shown earlier tonight an Instagram of a new Big Brother 26 showmance.
Yeah.
We're old news, yeah.
Your old news? Is it
Coming up next
Is it official? Matt and Mackenzie are happening?
Yeah, they hard launched. Oh my God, I'm so excited for them. We're gonna see them in Orlando in a few days.
They're not like Bazinga pranking us, like a James Hewling type thing.
Here's what I'll say. We're going to go to Orlando. We're going to see them, and we will report back.
Please do.
But,
Okay.
you know, my thought is we saw him flirt a lot week 1. Then he left. So making up for lost time, maybe?
Okay.
Yeah. I like it.
It was meant to be.
I love love.
We love love. It's destiny. Okay, Houston, you were amazing. This was such a great crowd. Just incredible. We're all engaged. I didn't hear any talking during the show. So just for that, we're all going out after this, okay? All right, let's welcome back our panelists tonight. Give it up one more time for Karishma and Carl and Lauren and Dwight. We're gonna take a picture in a minute, okay? But thank you all so much. Thanks to Chappelle for holding it down during the commercials. Shout out to Asia one more time. If you didn't yet, listen to Evie and Shannon Gus with their recap of the episode, plus my Survivor Know-It-Alls, my exit interview with Caroline, and everything else in our We Know Survivor feed. You can find it at weknowsurvivor.com. Thank you so much, Houston, for coming out. Looking forward to seeing everybody out there who's listening at another live show in the future. We have such a great time getting this whole community together. Thank you so much. Owen.
Thank you for having me up here. Appreciate it.
Did Owen do a great job or what? And thanks so much, Sam, who does an amazing job putting it all together.
A hero.
Derek behind the scenes. Thank you all so much for coming out. Good night, everybody.
See you soon.